growing up in foster care was much worse than being with my biological parents. He's fulfilling all the things that he said he wanted to do now in spirit.
Through you.
And now I get it. Like, I get it.
Welcome again to I Got an Accent, So What? It's so funny. I had to read the screen to say that. But today is a very special day because I have a lovely girl, to call her how she call herself, a giant. We all giants. I love that. Candi Marie, thank you so much for allowing yourself to just bless me, bless us here. And I Got an Accent, So What? And I can't wait to get this started.
It is a pleasure to be here. Can I just say that it is an honor?
Of course.
It is like 200% an honor.
Oh my God, look at her already indoctrinated with 200% life. If somebody called you to interview you, said, no, I was just exclusive for G. I'm just kidding. I love Mr. 200%. But I met Candi this weekend, and it was, are those things that part of your destiny that is not coincidence, but there's things that got put in your path, and I have no doubt. And we were talking, before starting this interview, and it was just mind-blowing, even more what God has in purpose, and have people that truly inspire each other. And that's how I felt with you. I'm not going to lie to you guys, and I'm going to do a quick story. Met Candice in Ampere Life. Shout out to our amazing brother, Manny.
Love you, Manny.
He had his first summit on the weekend. The most powerful thing of the whole entire summit, it was the speakers. It was like we're all connected. We were all speaking the same language. But the most beautiful thing is we felt each other's heart,
Oh, yeah.
And we met you. I see you. Our producer and talent over here, Miss Lily, said, there's this girl talking outside, and the way she talks and everything is just, I want to ask her so many questions, but you can definitely see she's real great for a podcast. She had no idea who you were. And all of a sudden, there goes Candi to stage, and you're one of the speakers at this conference. And your story just marked and made sense of everything the way you speak. Right? So we were like little girls in the candy shop, me and Lily. We need to have her. That's a speaker that we need. And I told Leticia, I don't really know how to approach Candi Marie because she's so big, and you guys will see the reasons for it. This woman is not only a producer, she's an actress. You have interviewed one of the biggest, which is Opera, Tyler Perry, which I want to know so much about that. But your story, your background, it even make more sense. And I'm like, that's why she's there. And, I didn't want to just go in there, hey, how are you? I would love to. I just wanted things to go organically. Yeah. So I honestly didn't know how to approach you. I was even shy. And all of a sudden we're in this dinner, and I hear Leticia in the background talking to Candi Marie. And she's like, yeah, I would love to. I'm like, she did it. And I was like, oh. So to me, it's a dream come true, because that's something I honestly, from the moment you spoke, you opened your mouth on stage, I was like, this is an individual that I would love to have a conversation with. And even deeper, the admiration was so instantly, Candi, that I know it has something to do because we speak the same language that has to do with God. That's when God put things together, and those connections.
Every time.
So all of a sudden you said Tuesday you're available, and we usually record afterwards because there's so much noise in this studio around. I'm like, I don't care. We're going to make it happen.
It's been quiet.
Yes.
Wow.
But we're more calmed down. All the agents have left. Afternoon, you're going to see everybody coming in and negotiating on the phone and all that. So, but I didn't care. We're going to make it happen. And yeah. I'm just so excited. Bear with me with my nerves. Like everybody knows.
Well, I don't see any nerves. I see favor. I only see and hear favor coming out of your mouth right now. I'm just sitting here in awe. I'm just humbled. I'm like, who is this girl she is talking about? Like, I am just like, wow. It's always so interesting to see and hear how people view you and feel you, It's just humbling, very humbling.
we want to start from the beginning. Well, before that, since I want to know who's Candi Marie is.
Candi Marie is a girl that just decided to go for it. A girl that is trusting God, that just wants to walk in what he has for her. That's who she is, essentially.
Wow. And I can definitely see that, because that was the first language, there's the 5 love of language that we all know, and we talk about it, and the 5 senses of but the way of you expressing, and the way that you not only talk about love for God, that I can see it's being the biggest secret sauce of your success, and I can sense that, God's favor upon your life as well. But I want to go back to growing up. You share with us the story on stage, and I definitely want people to understand the reason why there's favor in you.
Wow. Well, I grew up in foster care. I am one of 6. My mother, schizophrenia, young white girl who grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. My father was 25 years older than my mom, and they come from 2 different generations. My mom came from a poor country white family, and my father was a country boy from Georgia, and he was born in the late 1930s. So just imagine, first of all, there's this big age gap, and they came from 2 different worlds, and they met here in Jacksonville, Florida, and they didn't have money. They were literally just doing the best they could. And that's all that I can remember. I remember just being happy and poor. I remember not having much, but it didn't feel like it all the time, except for when people pointed it out. It's so interesting. And, more and more people started to point it out. And then we ended up in foster care. And, I think one of my most fondest memories of being in elementary school was being called the dirty kids, me and my siblings being called the dirty kids. And I don't think we truly understood how, quote unquote, dirty we were until everyone told us that we were that. We just knew that we had each other. And like I said, we were just doing the best that we could. But I didn't know that the best that we were doing was so bad at the time. We ended up in foster care. I spent 10 years of my life in foster care from the age of 7 to 17 years old. And me and my siblings were torn apart. We were put into different homes. And I guess for me, one of the things, I just always felt God's favor on me. I always saw things for what they were. And I think that for God to give me that wisdom at such a young age, just to be able to see things for what they were, but to understand that it wasn't always going to be that way. That there was going to be glory on the other side of everything. I think that that's what kept me holding on, kept me pushing, kept me motivated, kept me resilient, was understanding that there was more, that this wasn't just everything that was going on. I guess for me, growing up in foster care was much worse than being with my biological parents. Because at least I had love. But growing up in foster care, I never heard the words "I love you." I never received hugs. I can probably count the amount of times my foster parents hugged me and said "I love you," and so it was a very interesting journey growing up in foster care, but it definitely made me into who I am. A very strong, very resilient girl. And that's just I feel like I'm kind of just touching the surface.
That was a heavy. Girl, you just transport me. I have a 5-year-old girl. I can just imagine a 7-year-old girl so confused, and a point even lost. Why is it happening? And what you said, the people that you thought that maybe, probably, none of us have perfect parents. But those are the only thing we know.
That's all we knew. Yeah.
Whether the mistake they made with us, because from my experience, I have a mom also that has a type of condition like that. It's not a schizophrenia, but because of so much abuse she experienced when my dad before they met Jesus, it have taken a toll on her. So I can just, my role as a daughter back then, I used to cover up for her. Like, she used to be in the patio smoking cigarette, and my dad used to hate that, and it really, you just transport me to that 6-year-old girl surviving. That those emotions still there.
Absolutely.
Those emotions, I think I have canalized it to a way that I've used as a force to be where I am and to impact my children. And I cannot just not imagine what were you thinking at that moment and everything that you were going through. All those experiences are happening.
Yeah.
You have adversity, you have people labeling you. At what age you knew there's a purpose in your life?
I think the most fondest memory that I have, it's for the first time I'm actually writing my story, and I'm turning into a short film. But the fondest memory that I have is one night, I think I was like 8 years old. I was crying, screaming into my pillow, and I was saying, I hate my life. And I was like 8. And at the end of that cry, I just remember, I just felt something say that everything is going to be fine. Like, I remember I can visually see myself, this little 8-year-old, and she is what I carry with me every single day. I just remember that moment so much because I felt like after God allowed me to get it out, I felt like he wrapped his arms around me and he comforted me. And it was like ever since then, I tried my best with everything that I did. I tried to, I don't know, it was like I lived a double life. I felt like the person that I was when I left those walls of that foster home compared to who I was when I was inside those walls were two completely different people. It was like when I knew that I was outside, there was like this whole world that I knew that was being given to me, handed to me. But when I was inside that foster home, it was like I was being contained. But I always knew there was something on the other side. I didn't grow up knowing God. Nobody went to church. But I do remember every single time I was in a church or that I went, I just felt a connection. I would be like this little girl standing up, clapping and singing. It was just like I was always drawn to him. I always felt him. And I can't explain it. And I think it's just like God chooses us. So like when I think about that 8-year-old girl crying, screaming, saying that she hated her life, it was like God is just like, just wait, there's something on the other side of this. So I always knew that there was more. And I think that that was God showing me that there was more, or just giving me that feeling. It's like you can't always explain it.
Comforting you.
Yeah.
Comforting you.
Yes. I don't know. Like, there's another time. There's so many instances that I can remember where I felt like God showed up in my life. Like, there's another time I think I was like 5 years old. And this, I think, is the first time that I felt God's love, or that I felt God in any capacity. I went to the beach with my mom and my 2 brothers. And my mom's like, watch your little sister. She's early 20-something, wanting to have fun with her friends, telling 2 young boys that are like 7 and 9 to look out for like a 5-year-old. And I just remember wandering off into the ocean. And then I just remember like, and I've never publicly told this story before. I just feel like I'm supposed to tell it right now. Wow. I just remember wandering off laying down. I don't know. I just remember I'm laying face up in the water and I see a bright light. And I rose from the water and I went back to where everybody was. And I just remember everybody saying, "Where were you? We've been looking for you. We've been looking for you." And I just remember a bright light. And I got out of the water. And that was when I was like 5. And I just feel like with everything that I had gone through, like in foster care, it was just always like little reminders that God was there no matter how bad things were in my foster home. And, you know, like the things that had happened to me in that foster home. I always wondered, like, God, why did you choose me? You know, like, honestly.
That's still a question I tell God today's day. Yeah. It's so funny, the connection that we have is, I cannot even express it, Candi. Even though we live two different lives, there were so many things. And now that I'm 40 years old, that I still feel I'm 28.
I was going to say, girl, you don't look 40, girl. I was thinking 25. I was like, honey.
I don't lie my age. I do feel like I'm 28 for some reason. It's not because my producer maybe is 28 and she's impacting that youth.
It's a feeling, honey. It's a feeling.
She's always hating on me because of that. But those things that you're explaining, now that I'm a grown-ass woman, I always knew that was God protecting me. And it was God protecting you because there was a bigger purpose. Because the enemy always tried to rob, destroy that gift. You know? So it's beautiful to see. And it's so funny, guys. You guys have no idea what I'm feeling in the studio right now. And with hands down is one of the most heartfelt interviews I've done. Because as you talking, I'm reliving things of my childhood.
Wow. I was feeling bad because I'm like, I know I'm looking off to the side and I'm going to this place.
No, you have no idea. And I know this is meant from God because I know somebody needs to listen to this and somebody needs to hear that. And I've never shared this either. I've only shared with Leticia, but not publicly. The same thing with my mom. She was in her own world, hating life because her husband was cheating on her and he has so much money that she could not control her husband. He was cheating with her best friend. She was going to all this witchcraft people to tell them the same thing. But I always knew there was something. There was always somebody protecting me. And my mom used to send me to the corner store for lack of better words, but that's how it was back in Cuba. And I know this is your space, but I feel like I need to share the same.
This is God's space.
It was saying like probably 3 miles walk. And at that time I was 5 years old. Like it's insane to me. Like I have, my older son is 14-year-old and I would not even send him a mile to walk because I just want to shelter him. So many things that could happen. And I remember she sent me to get, you know, because in Cuba, the food it's controlled by the government and you have certain time to pick it up and everything. That's how the government is, unfortunately. So my mom sent me to get that daily thing, the milk and whatever little the government was giving us, the eggs, whatever it was. And I remember going alone. The only thing I can describe nowadays because daylight savings happened, but I know one of the days it was getting dark. And I remember it must have been 6, but it has to be the switch because I'm like, I remember always going in the daytime.
Yeah.
And this guy started following me. And I remember I used to wear even baggy clothes, not to attract. I wanted to be invisible, like invisible to people. I didn't want people to see me.
Can I say, there is a sermon by Sarah Jakes I just listened to yesterday. She's saying the same exact thing.
Yeah.
I have to send it to you.
Please, I need it.
But I don't want to stop you. But wow, this is powerful.
Yeah, so this gentleman started following me. And I noticed I was 5 years old. So the first thing that comes to my mind, I run to this lady that is in the same sidewalk farther than me. And I go, tia, aunt, tia. And I hold her hand. And I tell the lady, ma'am, please do not let me go. You're 5. I was 5. I feel somebody's following me, and I just want to make sure that you cross me to the other side of the river, which was a bridge, because I know there's light and I'll be safe.
You were 5.
I was 5. And my mom was gone in her room going through depression.
And you were 5.
I was 5.
And you were so...
And then I remember, that's why I that same question you asked God, I said, nothing ever happened to me. Why me when there's so many girls are being raped? Why I was protected? I remember another occasion, I'll be talking to somebody and I didn't remember who it was. Now and then I can tell you it was an angel. So I always felt something was next to me and I'll be talking to that. And I hold a little grudge to my mom, and then I understood that she didn't know any better. Yeah. She didn't know any better. She was lost in her. But I could be so much worse, and God always protected me. And that's the question that I always ask God. Why me? And all of you guys heard here and there so many stories that I've had relived in my life and our biggest journey, which coming to the United States. But at that moment, when you were going to that 8 years old, what was that thing that you're like, it's going to be better? Because something must have happened that took you out of that depression, out of that dark moment.
It's interesting because I feel like when you are chosen, when you are called, you always struggle with the dark. Mm-hmm. It always tries to consume you. It always tries to rob you of your joy. It always tries to rob you of your promise and your destiny. Mm. So I still struggle with the dark. It's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing, because God chose us. He knows what he has put on our lives, and he wants us to be silent. Mm-hmm. It's just God. God just always shows up at the right time. Like, even with opportunities and the way he connects me to people. And I can't even say that it's just like one thing that I can think about that comes to mind. It's just so many things, you know, as long as I believe him and I trust him, I feel like he shows up. But I think like just being in foster care, like when I think about how I was able to survive that, I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, I don't understand. Like, it was never me. It was never me. Like, I should have been a crazy woman a long time ago. I should have lost my mind a long time ago. Like, when I think about, I just actually lost my brother to gun violence.
I'm sorry.
And it's just interesting because when I think about our conversations, and, you know, we spent the most amount of time in foster care together. And there was this one time he told me that he felt like the devil was trying to take him. Mm-hmm. And that is so real, you know, and I don't even know why I'm saying this right now.
Go ahead.
But it's, I could just think of just so many times, like in our childhood, where we overcame, you know, and there are so many people that did not, you know, who didn't survive and who didn't make it. And I'm just so like, just sitting here right now and just knowing that, you know, he's not here anymore. Sometimes you can't help but think, why did God choose you and not them? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm even answering the question at this point.
No, it's okay. What I've learned with a year, Candi, is that we all know the day that we come in, but that accident date we don't. Yeah. So, and one time a very wise, it's okay, a very wise gentleman told me once that we all have a story to tell, and we all have a plan to write. And once that's done, that's when he take us out because there's not something else. Because what you said, there's so much darkness that want to consume you in a way that only God knows the reason why he takes those angels before, you know, and that don't know your brother, but I'm sure some impact he has done into other people that we might not know.
You know what I'm realizing is that this was all a part of the plan. I finally get it now. And I feel it right now. He is doing more now in spirit. And it's crazy because we would have these conversations and we felt like we were supposed to like change our lineage or like be the like I'm realizing now who I've been called to be for like my lineage, you know, for my bloodline. And we would always have these conversations and he would just be like, we have to do this for our family. We have to do that. Wow. And what he is doing now is more powerful than he's fulfilling all the things that he said he wanted to do now in spirit.
Through you.
And now I get it. Like I get it. Like I didn't get it then, but I understand it now.
It's been giving you those signs.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, somebody's sacrifice, it's for, listen to this, and this just came to me. Somebody's life sacrifice is for somebody else's vision.
I now get it. You are absolutely right.
And it's the continuation for that legacy, for his legacy and your 6 siblings have purpose, and you all, it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And the day that we'll be there and meet with our maker is the day that everything will make sense.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's a puzzle that when you're doing a puzzle, you don't do it all at once. We start for a little corner, we do the other corner, and sometimes one thing has no correlation of the other, and we're like, this is a mess. Would I ever finish this? Until there's little pieces intertwining are going to get together for that bigger picture. But that bigger picture is fire.
Yeah.
And only the one putting it together understands at the end.
Yes.
And the only thing I can think to that, because God is just putting it in my spirit, is when I'm doing this puzzle with my family. We're all working in different areas.
Yeah.
Until that last person that put it together, who that baton was given to. And that is you. That is where you have, oh my God, guys, this is supposed to be an interview. That is why the reason.
I've never been this vulnerable.
In
like crying, and this is.
Okay. Can we get some napkins, assistant over there, please? Thank you. Go ahead. It's not going to come up in the audio. It all makes sense at the end. But the last person holding that baton is the one that is going to be gratifying on everybody else's sacrifice, but not in gratification of a joy. That grief will turn into a joy that you'll be like, he needed to be with him, and he made it perfectly for that sake.
Yeah.
And it will make sense. That's why you have where you are. That's why you have the success that God have given you. And it's just so powerful, guys. And in the studios, it feels so raw and so real. But that's what God does. He does things out of the normal to glorify his name. Yeah. And that's how I feel my life has always been. And now you see your life.
Yeah.
And it was all for this moment till you understand. So that next step and that next chapter has a purpose.
Yeah.
And has a real intention. And that's something that we talk all the time, Leticia and I. Leticia, is not what we say, it's the intention.
Yeah.
The intention of the heart goes beyond that even what others try to judge or label us and say what we are, it does not matter to us.
It doesn't matter because they're going to do it regardless.
Regardless, whether you are floating in gold and feeding the people, you're not feeding enough people, and why you didn't do this country, why you didn't do the other one. Thank you, thank you, baby. But at the end is that intention. And the only thing God waits at the end is your heart. And he, oh my God, he just told me this the other day. He's like, I wait your heart every night. I felt so honored that he would just have the liberty to tell me that he waits the heart every night.
Every night.
It's like, and he's like, yeah, my child, I'm proud of you. You feel broken? I'm proud of you because you're 1% more better than yesterday. Than yesterday, than today. So it's so hard to go to all my questions, guys. My producer here don't help me. She's left me all alone. But it's just those experiences. Candi, it's for you. And I'm honored.
And you know what? I'm honored because we were never supposed to go on script. We was always supposed to go off. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling right now. Because I'm literally, 1 minute I'm in my head, I don't know if anything I'm saying is making sense. And then the next minute, God is
talking to you.
Present, just receive, take in, and give, So thank you for letting me do that today.
No, 200%.
I don't even know if anything I said made sense.
No, it doesn't have to make sense because that's what it's all about, to be raw, to be ourselves. It's especially you, and we're going to go there. This is going to be my subway. Is that the right word? Here we go again. To especially all the amazing success and milestone that you have acquired as an individual, that you should be, most of all, you're the one that should be so proud of yourself. And I hope you acknowledge that.
Thank you.
That this moment of being raw, you can see that was everything meant for all the goodness and all the blessing that he brought to you. Yeah. Which it's so similar to when I went back to my little town. Here I go again. I went to my little town with my husband, super made and everything, proud. And I stayed at the most expensive boutique in the square of my little town. And I'm standing in the balcony, and I'm in the square of each town is, since we're all colonized by the Spanish, and we know that in Cuba. So the little squares where everybody, the youth, the kids will go, and they'll have an amphitheater, and they'll probably do little concerts here and there. So this hotel is right there in front of it. And I'm looking at all these children playing, and then you see the little couples there trying to, dating and telling them stuff in the ear. And I'm leaving that moment. And all of a sudden, I was asking God that same question. Mm-hmm. And my husband comes behind me, and he said, do you ever thought a little Guantanamera, which means somebody from the campo, have had all the success that you had, survive in the sea, and now you can see your land and all those people? And I started bawling. And I said, yeah, I was chosen. Because any of those youth, God could have picked them, and he picked me. Yes. And right there then, instead of saying why, which I still ask him every day, show me. And that's why he shows me every day in my prayer closet. Right there, then I have such a gratitude, and life switched. And there's a saying that I said, and if you guys go back and see me when we did the whole entire inauguration of the company, I said a saying that somebody said, and at that moment it came alive. It became alive, and it says, when you know where you came from, you know where you're going. Mm-hmm. And that trip was so emotional to me because I just turned 31 back then, and I was just absorbing all of that, enjoying the moment, and saying, when I go back, and actually after then, Jeremy and I kill it in every aspect. We mentor more. We went full force because I knew that there was a purpose and I was not going to waste the opportunity. And that's what you're not doing right now. So, UCF.
Yes.
We go to UCF alumni.
Yes, ma'am. UCF alumni, which was a blessing because.
Tell me about that. You did mention that in the interview.
Yes, darling. I got a full ride.
I
to go to college because I grew up in foster care.
So listen to this, guy. So if you grew in foster care,
in the
state of Florida, my Floridians.
Come on, Floridians. Yes.
You have the right full tuition.
Tuition is covered. My whole 4 years were covered. And I just want to just put something into perspective for you. Mm-hmm. I used to be so ashamed of being that girl that grew up in foster care, you know, but slowly but surely God showed me that that was my superpower, that was my strength. Like literally when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, whenever the counselor would come to pick me up, I would hide. I made up a story that I lived with my dad and my stepmom because who wanted to be a foster kid? It was the worst thing. Nobody wanted to be called an orphan. Nobody, the names, the stigma that's attached to being a foster kid is terrible. Yeah. Even still to this day, all the things that come to mind that people think of, the narrative that the world has created. Yeah. I wanted to be anything but that. I didn't want that label on me. I wanted to be like everybody else. And when I look at my life now, being a foster kid is my superpower. Absolutely. The first major movie that I was in Hollywood was about foster care.
That's the one with
Mark Wahlberg, Octavia Spencer, Rose Byrne. Wildly
you were the
successful.
Nurse.
I was the nurse.
I looked at it. I was like, where's she at?
I was the nurse, and I was the only actress in the movie that grew up in foster care. And you want me to tell you how I got that audition? Yes. I got the audition because I was sharing my story. Literally, I had met the casting director when I was in Atlanta. I had started a positive media company, and I had met the casting director because I hired one of her mentees to be a writer for my positive media company. She was also a foster kid. So she tells her mentor about me, and she's like, there's this girl, she's the CEO of this company that I work for, and she also grew up in foster care, and she's so great, and da-da-da-da-da. Her mentor's like, I have to meet this girl. Mm-hmm. So our very first time, like, having lunch and meeting, she's like, tell me your story. I tell her my story. She's this massive casting director in LA. Oh, my God. So when she's reading the script and she reads this part, she's like, it reminds me of Candi when she was telling me her story. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got the audition for the movie.
That was your first role as an actress?
That was my first major role, yeah.
Wow.
As an actress.
How do you feel? Because I watched that movie, and it was great.
It was great.
It was very good. It was very well put together. I mean, everything that Mark Wahlberg does, there's an intention behind him. I've seen him work, and it's very impressive. So that's your first big role. Mm-hmm. When you interview Oprah, was that before or after?
That was before. Okay. That was before. So when I was working in Atlanta for Steve Harvey, I was the very first correspondent to work for the Steve Harvey Morning Show. So I was kind of like their mentee. Okay. And I was hosting a lot of events with them, and I was interviewing all the guests who came off air after they got through interviewing them. They would come and interview with me. Of course. And basically they were like, you're really talented. It's time to take your talents to LA. I hadn't officially moved to LA yet, so I was sleeping on a friend's couch in Atlanta. The struggle. And, as I mentioned on stage, I got a call from, a friend like, hey, can you be in LA? Because there's an opportunity to interview Oprah. And I looked at my bank account and I was like, I don't know how we're going to make this happen because I don't have no money. And then I had another friend who called me out the blue, and she was just like, what's up? And I was like, I'm a little sad because I really need to get to LA because there's an opportunity to interview my everything, Oprah. I don't have the money. And she was like, it's taken care of.
angels that got
She
put in her
took care
way.
of it. Yeah. And then I slept on another friend's couch when I got to LA. But just the conversation between the two of us, you know, she grabbed my hand. Like, I didn't see her grab anybody else's hand. The way she grabbed mine, and she was just like, you alone are enough.
Wow.
And I needed to hear that in that moment, because I didn't know that I was enough. I'd spent a lifetime wondering if I was anything.
Wow.
You know? So, wow, it was like, I'm exactly where I needed to be. And even though I hadn't made it yet, and even though I was this girl who grew up in foster care, and even though I was sleeping on a friend's couch and I was literally just trying to figure it out, I was still enough. And those words have stuck with me. And even to this day, I still replay that interview. It's on my page right now as we speak. I just reposted it on my page again. But literally, I share those words with so many foster youth. I shared them with foster youth at this graduation the other day. Like when I go out and I speak, that's the one consistent message that I always say: you alone are enough. You know, from there, I've had the opportunity to work with Mark Wahlberg in other capacities. You know, I've interviewed Tyler Perry. I haven't worked with him yet,
Of course.
but I'm sure
It's coming.
it's coming, you know. But I've had the opportunity to work with so many giants in this business that I've also realized that I'm a giant too.
I love that line. Yes.
You know, and we are. Like, oftentimes we think about the successes of all the people around us and all the people who've come before us. But the things that we've gone through as a child, if we can get through what we got through as a child and still be able to keep going and hold your head high, what do you think you can do as an adult? Because where do you think that strength, that resilience, that courage came from as a child to look some of these quote unquote giants in the face? We look fear in the face, which is a quote unquote giant. You know, we looked adversity in the face. We looked bullies in the face, and we defeated all of those giants.
Yes.
What makes you think that you're not a giant too? If you defeat a giant, what does that make you? A giant too. If you're working with giants, if you're standing on the shoulders of giants, what does that make you? A giant too.
Yes.
And we have to remember that, and we often forget it because it's society that instills that fear, that giant that we had just talked about, which is fear. Yeah. Society tries to instill that in us to make us shrink ourselves and to make us feel like we're not beautiful enough, we're not smart enough. They don't want us to be great. They really don't.
And we're not good enough.
We're not good enough, but God chose us a long time ago, and I think that that's what my younger self, baby Candace, always reminds me. She's that 8-year-old girl that was screaming in that pillow, that was like, I hate my life. And God was on the other side smiling like, but you just wait. I got something for you. Oof. You know? And I think that now everything is starting to make sense now. And I think that now God is like, you are ready. I hope you're ready for takeoff, because you are about to fly. And I can feel it.
Yes, you are.
Now.
It needed to make sense.
Yeah.
Now all the pieces are coming together. One of the most gratifying and hard in a way because of the emotions, right? The emotions that we want. It's just, God, it's a perfect God. He's definitely a perfect God. So he put you in Hollywood. Now you're surrounded with all these giants, which makes you a giant too, right?
Yeah.
Conquering. Actually, if you think about it in the Bible, when back in the day in war, like if you kill that giant, you inherit all of those wins that giant got. So that's how I see it. And you saying that about Oprah, you didn't need to hear that from Oprah. And it was not even, Oprah, she's an incredible individual, but she was the person that you look up to. So God had to take you there for you to believe what he said, that you're enough. You see how perfect he was?
I have chills underneath this jean jacket, y'all.
So God takes you to Hollywood, to the biggest giant, makes you enough, makes you a giant too. You're conquering, you're coming. By the way, guys, she has a podcast, July what?
Premieres July the 19th.
The 19th, Becoming Her. So I need you guys all follow this. It's with other hosts, right?
Two other phenomenal women. Phenomenal.
That I think this is going to be now your platform to speak and share, because I think from the magnitude and like I told you, I was like that when I met you, and I thought I was not good enough to speak to you because
which all is of like,
this
do you see this queen sitting in front of me right now? I'm like,
listen,
what?
This is good makeup and good Cubanness. But I'm just so honored and definitely proud of you. So you're among all these giants. You have 2 giants that are going to be your co-hosts in this amazing project, Becoming Her. Mm-hmm. What is the vision and the purpose of this podcast?
Well, basically, we just want to take everyday women just like us on a journey of what it means to become her, because we're always evolving. We're always coming alive in the best way. Mm-hmm. And I think that, again, going back to society tries to make you feel like you have to be it. You have to be her already, but we're always becoming. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we have people that speak at you and they're telling you this is what you need to do. But we want people to come on the journey with us. Like, come on this journey with me. Let's take this journey together. We're being raw. We're being open. We're letting our hair down. Yeah. We're being honest. And we're allowing the world to see us come alive and become her right before your very own eyes.
I want to see that.
It's special. Like, I can't thank God enough for connecting me with Danny and Haley J. You know, and we're all so very different. We come from different walks of life, but when we come together, we're perfect. That's beautiful. Like, I can't wait.
Power it's all about.
For you to hear the power in our vulnerability, in our openness, the power in what it means to become her.
Wow. I can't wait to see that. Please follow them. Becoming Her.
Yep. So it's at Becoming Her Productions on Instagram.
Are you ready for that?
I am equipped. I am more than ready.
For all the fruits and blessings that you're going to reap about this.
Oh, absolutely. and then also, God has really put it on my heart, too, to expand my platform from foster care to Hollywood.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I really want to. I think that God placed me in Hollywood to change the narrative of what it means to grow up in foster care, what it means to be orphaned, what it means to grow up without your mom and your dad. So I'm committed to creating films that are going to change the narrative and tell the story of not just orphans and people that are estranged, but people that have beautiful stories that want the world to see them differently. That's what God put me in Hollywood to do.
We need that. And you couldn't...
To tell our stories.
Listen, there's so many that needs to hear our stories and our struggles, because we're human. Yeah. We all have the same struggles. And somebody out there might think, my struggle is so unique and I'm the only one going through that. And they need to hear that somebody else's struggles, it's probably the same or worse, or in another way that we cannot express it. Who are we to choose our struggle?
Yeah.
The only person that chooses it is our Creator. And the only reason is for things that you just said. I needed to go through this. I needed to go to that moment in your life of darkness so then you can find God. He makes what He can out of something broken, because that's exactly what He perfects Himself on. Yeah. And makes it shine. If we read throughout the Word of God, every single one of them were unqualified.
We talked about that too.
But the only one that qualifies us is our Creator. Yeah. To go beyond, to impact, to heal, to bring light and hope to those that don't think they're good enough. And if we read the stories in the Bible, one is an assassin, a killer, a liar, a tax collector that robbed from people, a king that kills and an unqualified queen.
Come on.
Like Esther was.
Come on.
She was not meant to be.
Come on, sis.
And an immigrant that was not meant to be in a palace to transform and save his people.
God calls the unqualified because they were always qualified.
He qualifies us. The world and the darkness try to unqualify us. But the beauty of that is that all those things that happen in our life, we think unqualify us. And it's because of what the enemy tried to rob of what is already deposited in us. My last question, because I don't want to add nothing else. I think it's funny because I've been wanting to go to your accomplishment, which they're all beautiful. But God is not allowing me because he needed you to hear that. He needed me to take you to that and to speak to me as well. What will you tell the 8-year-old Candi if you see her right now in front of you and you have an opportunity to tell her something? You had 5 minutes to tell her something.
You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. She spent a long time looking for safety. A long time. That 8-year-old girl has been searching for it for over 30 years. And I think that all she ever wanted was to feel safe and to have a place to call her own. And I think now she's finding it.
She's safe.
She's safe.
You're safe. Look at you now.
Yeah.
And she will hug you right now and say thank you.
Yeah.
For making me and bringing me home.
Yeah.
Now it's your turn to bring others home and other girls home. I don't want to add nothing else, my people. I hope you guys were blessed, that these teach you guys to open up more. And it's okay to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is strength.
It is powerful.
Many cannot deal with it. Mm-mm. So see you next time. I love you all. And make sure your life has a purpose.
Thank you.